Welcome to Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. I'm your host, David Nolan. Today, I'm talking with David Daly, president of the Sexuality and Gender Alliance of Actuaries, who reveals a fascinating former career and a laudable record as a volunteer. David, welcome to Actuary Voices.
My pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how and why you became an actuary.
So, as way of introduction, I'm currently an associate actuary working in corporate risk management for Allianz Life Insurance in North America. So, I grew up in the Chicago area. Grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Lived there almost my entire school age life. Did my undergrad work at a small university in Joliet, Illinois, University of St. Francis. Majored in math with the idea that I was potentially going to become a teacher, high school teacher. After exploring that path for a while, found out that wasn't the route for me. It was definitely not a traditional straight line that brought me from, let's say, college to this point. I think one of the interesting things about my story and my background is that I'm a career changer. A lot of people can never guess my first career as in casino operations and management.
Wow. So, that's a first for us.
So it's usually a great conversation starter when somebody takes a look at my LinkedIn or my resume and sees the past life there. As an undergrad, I majored in mathematics. I got my bachelor's degree in mathematics. Going into actuarial science was always in the back of my mind, but ended up landing in the casino industry for a while. Had a lot of great opportunities there. A lot of exposure to the business, some different functions within the business. Got a chance to see the company expand into new markets, and I got to work with that process of working with local regulators, doing a lot of hiring and training, working with vendors. So a lot of great experience. When that expansion in the company sort of stopped, it caused me to kind of stop myself and reflect, like, is this really the career I want to spend my life in? And ultimately landed to the answer of no, it wasn't. And kind of went back to the roots, thought about my college education, and said, actuarial science was always in the back of my mind, and decided that it was time to make the career change in my mid-30s. So I had the opportunity to go to DePaul University, pursue a master's degree at DePaul in actuarial science. I kind of felt, after being away from the academic study for so long, that it would be a good idea to go up and go back and brush up on some of my academic skills. Had the very unique experience of interning having an actuarial internship at the ripe young age of 36. So
I think there was a movie not so long ago.
I don't think I was quite to that extreme, but it certainly felt that way sometimes. So yeah, coming into the actuarial profession later in my life, and also having having kind of the double-edged sword of having a lot of business skills and a lot of work experience behind me, but also going from a career where I was very comfortable with the operations, very familiar with the ins and outs of a lot of the functions of the company, to basically starting from square one. And it's humbling, and you have to. Mm-hmm. And you have to kind of step back and be willing to acknowledge where you don't where you don't know something and be able
Right.
to ask for help. Um, but I've also, I think because of my age and because of some of my experience, I've also been able to do a little bit of fake it till you make it, and been able to have some success there. So, but
Sure. So tell me, I just want to return to the casino bit because obviously that's fascinating. Casinos probably have a long track record of figuring out odds. And I'm guessing you weren't involved in trying to supplement or augment their procedures around figuring out odds or catching people who were counting cards or whatever. Is that right? Or was there any part of that of it?
well, a lot of one of the things, not to go too deep in the weeds in the operation,
Mm,
but a lot of times the odds have either been long past calculated for some of the very traditional, what we think of as, you walk into a casino and you see table games, like the odds of blackjack and roulette and craps have been long since calculated. And
mhm.
a lot of some of the newer, like, kind of novelty things that you see in a casino, they're usually proprietary information, property of an outside vendor that's done all that odds work.
Oh,
Really, where a lot of the analytical work would come in the casino would be um, optimizing profitability based on the spread on the casino floor. So I have X number of gaming positions, and would this gaming position be more profitable with a $15 blackjack game or a $25 roulette game, or things like that, and how you spread your gaming floor to maximize profit.
fair enough. So it's sort of
Yeah.
tweaking a system rather than creating
Right.
new
Then
systems.
I didn't spend much time, if any, behind house advantage and things like that on games.
Hmm.
Did work a little bit with some measures against advantage players. So, as you mentioned, like card counting and things like that.
Right. Yeah, that's the one I'm familiar with. I can't say I've spent very much time inside casinos, though I did stay at a hotel in Las Vegas one time for a week where there was a very large casino over a couple of floors. But
Yeah, I spend significantly less time in casinos now than I used to.
yes, having seen it from the inside, you say, okay, I'm not
Yeah,
winning here.
right.
Okay, so you start as an intern at an actuarial firm, and then you grow and develop, and you get offered a full time gig. And how did you find it? Did were you doing exams while you were actually working, or did you use your master's degree to try and get as many of your exams as possible?
So I finished. I was able to do 3 exams during my master's degree, leading into my full time job. And then once I secured my first full time job, which was with Great American Insurance in Cincinnati, working on annuity product development, and I will always be grateful that was the job that I landed in. Um, Wonderful company. I had a fantastic manager that I'm still in touch with today. He somehow kind of understood, as a career, me coming in as a career changer, and some of the challenges and some of the things that I would internally struggle with. John somehow kind of had an intuition about that, and he really helped walk me through some of those challenges. He was very supportive. Um, and I'm very, very grateful for that was my first position, and I had that exposure, and I had that chance to grow there.
Sure, it really is remarkable how impactful a good manager who
Um,
nurtures, because we all have quirks, whether
mhm.
it's a mid-career change or whatever. We all have quirks, and just finding somebody who is willing and able to take the time and effort to help you work your way through that is absolutely vital.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've had a couple of really great managers in my time in the actuarial profession that really have helped me grow and get me to the place where I am in the industry.
Sure,
And a couple managers jump to the top of my head. John at Great American would definitely be one that really helped me get comfortable in the profession, get comfortable in my role. Um, And then I think back to my time at KPMG when I worked with David, and David was just excellent at helping me develop my, some of my leadership within the profession, finding my way in the industry. So I've been fortunate to have a couple really great managers.
Yeah. And what type of actuarial practice do you focus on?
So my specialty is in annuities. I work somewhat with life insurance. I've worked with life insurance in an auditing and consulting role, and here at Allianz, it's one of our product offerings. Although we are primarily an annuity company, we do issue some life products, but I would venture to say about 85% of my career has been focused on annuity products.
Sure. And what do you find personally fulfilling about that aspect or that part of your work?
Well, I enjoy, and this was one of the big things that led me, I think, out of my previous career and into this career. Um, while I'm working for businesses, and obviously it's a for-profit venture, I feel that what we're doing contributes to societal good. We, insure in life insurance and annuities. It's the backbone of retirement for many people. It's a large savings wealth for many people, particularly looking at annuity products that let you mitigate against longevity risks. So make sure that you have sufficient income for your retirement. Make sure that you're able to provide for your loved ones or for your estate when you pass away. I find it fulfilling that I'm helping meet those needs in society.
Sure. It's interesting because that's something that is a regular theme on Actuary Voices. That actuaries find that the impact that they're having on real people's lives is what they find most fulfilling, and feeling that they're forming a kind of public service.
But obviously, we want the performing the public service while still keeping the company profitable and successful
Right. Yes.
at the same time.
Yes. It is not a charity.
Yeah.
Let me take a moment to remind listeners that you're listening to Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. On this podcast, we talk to Academy volunteers and leaders, as well as friends of the Academy, about what inspires them about their work, either professionally or as an Academy volunteer. Please subscribe to Actuary Voices on your preferred podcast platform. And registration is now open for the Academy's annual meeting, Envision Tomorrow, at actuary.org. Now, back to my conversation with David Daly, President of the Sexuality and Gender Alliance of Actuaries, who can be found online at SAGAA Actuaries, that's SAGA Actuaries.org. But speaking of that, more on the volunteering side, you are an ardent volunteer, and you're currently serving as president, if I'm correct, of the Sexuality and Gender Alliance of Actuaries. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about where SAGAA is the acronym, where
Right.
SAGAA came from and how you got involved.
Sure. So SAGAA was developed by two P&C actuaries, Jake Atkins and Matt Gentile, during the pandemic, and it began as a couple presentations to professional groups, actuarial groups, leading into Pride Month of 2020, and as their presentation got multiple requests for repeat, the two of them had the idea like, hey, this might be a thing. There might be a need here within the profession. So where I came to be involved was I actually got the chance to virtually attend one of those initial sessions during COVID, and began as a member, attending SAGAA meetings. And there was fairly shortly, they were asking for volunteers to help with the education committee. We we've developed multiple presentations that we give to our sponsors, to actuarial groups, professional societies, different workshops. So I volunteered to serve on the educational committee. And David, as you know, in the volunteer world, as soon as you raise your hand once, you've kind of opened up the dam.
Oh,
so
yeah.
so the educational committee quickly rolled into me running for the board, and then that very shortly got me the message like, hey, are you interested in being the president elect? So I've been in the role, had the opportunity to do this for the last 2 years. So my term with SAGAA is going to be up at the end of the year. But president, obviously I'll still stay on and be active with the group. But it's been a great experience. I've got to really expand my network, and talk about the profession in a lot of different venues, and I feel make some very positive changes.
Sure. So we're obviously talking in and around your anniversary then, because we're speaking in Pride Month.
Yeah.
So 4 years, give or take. And that I think would make you one of the newest affinity groups or organizations that represent specific groups of actuaries, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, certainly in kind of the most recent wave, I would say.
Right.
You know, there might be a couple that came after us, but I think all timing pretty similar.
Sure.
Yeah.
And do you plan any special activities during Pride Month?
So we don't have any anything particularly we do as an organization, but we end up working with our sponsors quite a bit. The requests for virtual lunch and learns, for us to
Podcasts.
podcasts, things like that. Definitely kind of peak going like into May and June. So there's quite a bit of that. We really focus on having one large event a quarter, for SAGAA. So two of those we have as in-person events that we rotate geographically around the country, and then two of those are more virtual events. So actually, depending on when you're listening to this, last week of May, because we don't know when people listen to the recording. So during the last week of May, we actually had our most recent event here in Minneapolis, that we hold an in-person board meeting. That's one of the 2 times a year we get together in person as a board and really have some of our strategic planning dialogues. We hold an in-person training at one of our sponsor facilities, and then hold a networking event in the afternoon. So we do that twice a year. We are planning this December, November, December-ish. We're going to be in the Hartford, Connecticut area for our fourth quarter event. So those are great opportunities for us to reach out. And one of the great things that I think has also happened with that event is we've had representatives from other affinity groups usually will attend those events. And we're able to network, and we're able to talk about some places where we can work together and some common goals that we have for our organization. Because I'm a big believer that there's many affinity groups operating right now in the actuarial space, and everyone's just very committed, doing absolutely great work. And I'm a big believer that there's a large overlap in our mission and our activities, and where we can create some synergy, and we can leverage each other's resources. I think that's all for the better. Kind of in that vein, we are partnering with the South Asian Network of Actuaries and Abacus, the Asian Network of Actuaries, to host a virtual job fair for entry level and early career actuaries in August. So that's an example of where we can work together, leverage our resources, and deliver on our mission by partnering. And I think it's been wonderful that we've had opportunities to do that.
Absolutely. And obviously, there's also no need to reinvent the wheel. So if one of the affinity groups has an opportunity that others can use and utilize, then it makes an awful lot of sense to collaborate, as you say.
Absolutely.
Shruti Gupta from SANA was on Actuary Voices last month. So she and I have had a good conversation then. And I think I've mentioned it to you, David, but if you're ever planning an event in Washington, D.C., we'd be more than happy to collaborate with you on that.
Okay.
SAGA's been going for 4 years, give or take now. What are your visions for the future? Because you've been doing these quarterly events, either by yourselves or with other organizations. But do you have a sense of where in the next 4 years, what kind of events or what kind of place you'd like to see yourself?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that kind of brings us to the other side of the coin. I kind of spoke about how the commonalities and similarities between the different affinity groups. And I think your question kind of leads us to how are we different and where do we diverge? I'm very excited about the work that we've started to undertake in about, I would say, the last 9 months or so, focused on regulatory and consumer-based advocacy in the profession. So really taking a look at LGBTQ individuals and challenges that they face in the insurance marketplace. Exam A few examples of topics that we're touching is gender identity and how that relates to insurance, different places where there's gender-based ratings in insurance, be that life insurance, health insurance, auto. I don't want to start speaking on P&C topics because then I will quickly expose my ignorance. But different places where gender-based ratings come into play in insurance. Looking at, for example, people living with HIV, that's a rapidly changing population. The success of antiviral treatments in the 90s has greatly reduced the mortality rate for HIV, and that has created an aging population. Created a more aging population in that space. So how does the insurance industry address the long-term care needs, some of the income needs in retirement for that population? What are some challenges faced there? And topics such as that. So as to my knowledge, we're the only affinity group that's really veering into this more consumer advocacy space.
That certainly does sound interesting, because that's about affecting policy that affects the people that you represent and whose lives you're looking to impact. And certainly, a lot of the other organizations tend to be focusing on ensuring that their group gets a fair whack when it comes to becoming actuaries, or in some cases to rising through the ranks and
Yeah,
becoming part of the C-suite.
And I think that was definitely our core mission, and I think this really represents like an expansion of our mission.
So do you see what kind of challenges do you see when you're trying to advocate for changing policies?
Really getting a seat at the table, for first and foremost, and I think that's one of the. So I think a couple of things that we're doing right now is really developing our positions and our priorities as to what things we really want to pursue, and then how do we get a seat at the table? Like how do we, in some of these jurisdictions, we're not necessarily a constituent of that jurisdiction. So getting the attention of politicians in these areas might be difficult. So we're really examining how can we work with some of the existing infrastructure, some of the advocacy functions already in existence, either in the insurance industry, in the actuarial space, or even in the LGBTQ space. Organizations like the HRC, for example, that do a lot of the political activism in that space. How can we maybe leverage some of their expertise?
And HRC is a human rights campaign, right?
Human rights campaign. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That is a big pet peeve of mine, of you using acronyms without defining them. So thank you for grabbing that one.
They're actually based a couple of blocks from our office. So, yeah. And I imagine that the trainings and so on that you've done with sponsors and other insurance companies, that may well have opened doors as well for them to look at this aspect with fresh eyes.
Yeah, we've gotten some great feedback. We have one of our more recent presentations has been focused on bias in the insurance industry and the insurance marketplace, and really has served as kind of a jumping off point on some of these issues. And we've been able to present that out in some larger forums. So I would estimate we probably have close to 1,200 people have probably seen that presentation. Have gotten some really, really great feedback. Gotten pointed to some different regulatory environments we weren't aware of. Some different resource people reaching out for help. We've also had some of the curmudgeons push back on us pretty heavily, but that's to be expected.
Sure, it means you're having an impact.
Yeah, exactly.
And the U.S. qualification standards for the actuarial profession recently changed the continuing education requirements, and they now mandate 1 hour of bias training each year. And does the work you're doing, does that qualify as that kind of bias training?
It's my opinion it does. I know that's kind of an individual, that's up to everyone's individual judgment. But I think it's been a general consensus that yes, that does qualify.
Good, great. Well, long may that continue.
Yeah.
Because the Academy also does a lot of work around data bias. We've got at least one, if not two, committees that are focused on that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're incredibly active because there is so much work there to be done.
Yeah. That presentation I was just referring to is actually just accepted by the SOA for the virtual VALAC bias training.
Oh, great. Okay.
So that's gonna be offered there.
And when is the VALAC conference?
That is in the virtual. The virtual has different timing. The virtual is early September.
Okay. Right. Okay, so you've talked about some of the challenges that you face as in your organizational role as president of SAGAA and what you're doing to counteract them. I'd like to take it a little bit wider now, if I could, and talk about some of the challenges that the actuarial profession faces, and how you see maybe perhaps we might work to overcome those.
Yeah, and I think this goes hand in hand with a lot, exactly what the affinity organizations are doing. That as rewarding as many of us find the profession, personally, professionally, financially, and a lot of us find this profession very, very fulfilling and very rewarding. That I would say 9 times out of 10, as I'm meeting somebody I don't know, like say I'm meeting one of my partner's friends or one of my partner's coworkers, and I get the question, what do you do? And I say I'm an actuary. 9 times out of 10, I see the blank glazed look come over the face, and I usually follow up like, "You don't know what that is, do you?" And they're like, "No, I don't." So it's not the profession is just not very well known, and that gets amplified as we deal with minority populations, and they just don't see. They've never considered actuarial science as being a career path because they're just not aware of it. So I think building awareness of the profession is so important. And getting out to schools, the Be an Actuary program is a great program. I volunteered with a number of times, just getting word out about the profession.
Yes, the Actuarial Foundation gave a presentation at a recent Academy board meeting about the Be an Actuary program and other programs that they run. And it's vital work because you're right. An awful lot of people don't have any idea what actuaries do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think that educating the public is the biggest challenge?
I think awareness is definitely a challenge. I also think that there's been a lot of work done in trying to increase access to the profession, but I still think it's a difficult profession to access. Particularly, I know a lot of internship programs look for their candidates to have maybe two actuarial exams passed, and to register, prepare for those exams can get into $1,000. I mean, to put some figures on it. So, also building awareness around the resources that have been put into place, the actuarial exam reimbursement program, the scholarship funds for actuarial exams, access to the programs that are out there to help people be able to gain access to materials and exam scholarships and things like that, so that doesn't serve as a barrier and a deterrent for them to go down this path if they want.
Sure. And I'm aware that there has been some concern that an awful lot of the programs that are in place of the type that you mentioned focus on schools that either have actuarial programs or are adjacent to that, rather than looking at some of the other populations and other universities where it might not even be on the agenda.
Yeah, we do not. My opinion, we don't do a great job as a profession of going out and looking for talent in non-traditional places.
Right.
I can tell you from personal experience, career changing into the actuarial profession takes a decent amount of personal perseverance. It's not an easy process. I don't think anyone has an easy path into being an actuary, but career changing, there's a lot of challenges there. Somebody, like, as you mentioned, that is not at a well-established actuarial program in their undergrad studies. Also, there's a lot of unknown unknowns for those people. And I think that's some things that we can try to mitigate a bit.
Sure. Well, that's a big challenge, but
Yeah.
I feel that if anybody's up to it, it's the actuarial profession.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think we have identified several gaps, and it's simply, I say simply, it is a case of aiming to fill those gaps. David, thank you so much for your time today.
You as well. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Today, I was speaking with David Daly, President of the Sexuality and Gender Alliance of Actuaries, who can be found online at SAGAActuaries.org. That's SAGA Actuaries.org. My name is David Nolan, and I'm the host of Actuary Voices, the podcast from the American Academy of Actuaries. Please visit our website, actuary.org, for a wealth of information about the work that the Academy does, and learn more about our annual meeting, Envision Tomorrow. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, and of course, please subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast platform.